For July 7th, 2026. Staff, any changes?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I've got two changes for tonight. The first one is in addition to a consent item 6P, which is appointing election judges. This was added to the council packet yesterday morning, so the website reflects that, and council was also notified of it earlier today. And then the second is the voucher disbursement report for other business item 11A. That item was also noted in the agenda, and this is just the attached report for that item. So those are my two additions for tonight.
Great. Thank you. All right. Council, anything to move? Okay. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. Tonight's agenda has been approved. All right, next is the consent agenda. So pursuant to council rules, one motion non-debatable will approve the recommendation noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action. Such items removed from the consent agenda shall be considered immediately following the approval of the balance of the consent agenda. Council, anything to remove, discuss? Yes?
One to pull
Councilmember Greenberg?
item H, please. Authorizing the city manager to execute additional services request with Alliance.
Okay. Any other items?
Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda items A through P and removing, sorry, which item was it?
Item H.
H, thank you, removing item H.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. Okay, consent agenda is approved. I'll read that off here after we discuss item H.
Yep.
So authorize city manager to execute additional services request with Alliance.
Yep. So I pulled this just because I had a few questions reading through it. I know that we are with Sanborn Park doing a phased approach with the building portion happening further along in the phases due to funding and sources and things like that, which is spelled out in the background and analysis. I guess my question is is this to design, this is work that's already happening and then it's just an additional amount that we're getting this ready for when it's applicable to build the building based on funding sources being available and whatnot. So like this doesn't like tie us to building what is designed. It just is like something that's in process and we're adding, there's additional costs associated with that. Or maybe clarify that for me.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Greenberg, yes. So this really is for design services. The intent of taking on this process, council originally confirmed that, I'd have to go back and look, July, August of last year, set forward for several months. As is outlined here, saw a couple of increasing costs to offset or mitigate some of those, have absorbed that elsewhere in the budget. So again, the intent is to keep it net neutral. But this specific project is for building design. As you noted, the goal was to get this into a place, much like other projects we take on, having them at the ready for those funding sources when they become available. Sometimes through state programs, sometimes through federal partnerships as funding for this type of project comes online. We want to be at the ready so we can jump in the queue. So yes, this is for design services.
Okay. And then just one other quick question. So I know that there were some like very preliminary, just sort of outline of a building. And then I've seen updated pictures of Sanborn Park with like a newer shape of a building. Is that based on some of the design work that they've done so far, or that just is another placeholder that looks different than the one we had before?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Greenberg, without knowing specifically the images you're referencing, we have done both. We have utilized some rough outlines of the design process. This again would bring us further along and be able to input more. You're right to go back to reference your earlier comment. You're right to say that the phased approach has allowed for a bit of shifting and a bit of flexibility as we go. So again, without knowing the specific image you're referencing, there's been a few iterations, small adjustments as they are, but this will bring us to further level of detail.
Perfect, thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute an additional services request with Alliance for a future Sanborn Park building for $121,230.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. Okay, that's been passed. So what did we pass on the consent agenda? We accepted a quote for the purchase of new replacement computers. We accepted the Deputy Registrar's monthly financial statements, accepted Robbinsdale Wine and Spirits monthly financial statements, approval of credit card charges. We received Human Rights Commission meeting minutes from May 28th, 2026. We approved the public safety and annual open house date. We approved the annual Chamber of Commerce meet and greet date. Of course, item H, which was pulled, was authorize the city manager to execute additional services requests with Alliance. We received Parks, Recs, and Forestry Commission meeting minutes from May 26th, and we accepted a USTA National Grant Award. We passed the passing of the Senior Commission member Carol Kyle. Approved agreement with the Minnesota Services Incorporated for custodial services at certain city-owned locations. We waived the food permit fee for city band concerts at RMS. Approved licenses, approved city council meeting minutes from June 16th, 2026, and a resolution appointing election judges for the 2026 state primary election. That was a lot. All right. Moving on to presentations, item A, welcoming new GTO cadet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'll give a brief introduction as I invite Captain Elder and our Cadet Andrew to come on up. Would note this is our third iteration and fourth cadet, a program we continue to be thrilled to participate in.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. John Elder, Captain with the Robbinsdale Police Department. I'm pleased to introduce Andrew, who is the City of Robbinsdale cadet for this summer. The city has once again partnered with Empowered Inclusion through the Growth Through Opportunity program. As the city manager mentioned, this is our third year. Our cadet will work beside city staff, and it is our hope that Andrew and our city staff enjoy a wonderful experience working together, and that we will send Andrew off with valuable interpersonal and job skills for future endeavors. Andrew will work with almost every department in the city, starting yesterday, July 6th, and ending August 26th, with a graduation event in front of this city council September 1st. I would also like to recognize Paul Rapp, hidden behind me, who is Andrew's job coach and works for Power Inclusion. He will be beside Andrew every step of the way, as his family and friends who are in attendance this evening. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Captain Elder. Andrew, you are in good hands, and we are glad you're here. And I can't tell you, if the staff lives up to the expectations and all the things that they've shown me since I've been here as mayor, you're really going to have a good time. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Captain Elder. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Dad, for coming. Yeah. So we're so excited to have you here. Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. All right. Next is under presentations, we get a proclamation recognizing Senator Ann Rust.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Give a brief introduction. This is something that the Council discussed. I won't spend too much time on it, as I know Council, I'm sure we'll have a thing or two to share. I would just, from my perspective, like to share my gratitude and appreciation. In my handful of years with the city, Senator Rust has always been not just very accessible, but a strong advocate for the community. She serves a number of communities, including Robbinsdale, and the work that she has done on our behalf, again, in my short time, I have incredible appreciation for. So I offer my thanks from the staff's perspective, but know that Council has some sentiment as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Council, any comments? Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council. Yes, I would also like to extend my thanks to Senator Rest on behalf of all of those who have had the privilege of benefiting from her from her leadership. And I wanted to thank her for more than 4 decades of service. I believe that she approaches the work with deep knowledge, thoughtful leadership, and a steady commitment to Robbinsdale and beyond. And I especially want to thank her for several moments of connection throughout the years, whether it's through her presence and connecting at local events here in Robbinsdale, or even just giving encouragement to someone like myself and offering her mentorship by way of leading through example. So I wanted to just take a moment and say thank you, Senator Rest, for your contributions to Minnesota, and wish you all the best in your next chapter.
Excellent. Yeah, Councilmember Greenberg.
I too would like to express my gratitude to Senator Rest for all of the years and just her pragmatic approach, the things that she was able to get done for our community as well as the state. A force to be reckoned with, and really an amazing and long career. So thank you so much for all you've done for Robbinsdale and the state of Minnesota and our communities.
Excellent.
I'll be real brief.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to also say thank you to Senator Rest as well. Talk about a career and longevity. Your history will continue to support Minnesota for years to come. So thank you for the work you've done and the commitment that you've had to Minnesota as a whole. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll echo those points of my fellow council and the mayor. She got elected in 1984. That's over 40 years of public service, and to represent our communities here in Crystal, Golden Valley, Robbinsdale. She's dedicated her life to it, and she's definitely a mentor that I can call a friend. So just thank you again, Senator Ann Rest. She was a powerhouse, and she'll be missed at the Capitol. So that's all I got.
Excellent. No need a motion or anything, do we?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I would entertain a motion
Okay.
to recognize the proclamation recognizing Senator Ann Rest.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Go ahead.
Oh, sure, I can. I'll put it forward a motion accepting the proclamation recognizing Senator Ann Rest.
And I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. All right. That has been passed. I shall sign now. Okay, perfect. Moving on, presentation from PRISM is Executive Director Michelle Ness.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Ness. I'm the Executive Director of PRISM, nonprofit social service agency in Golden Valley. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present to you all just a little bit about what the organization does and how it has served the city of Robbinsdale. I can't type and talk.
It's okay, not many can.
There we go. You guys see it now? Great. Appreciate the opportunity. PRISM, we're located in Golden Valley. We provide services that include a busy food shelf. We provide rent assistance. We have a thrift shop that's open to the public called Shop for Change. And then we have an array of children's programs. I am dedicated to keeping this short. I could talk ad nauseum about what we do, and will not do that for you, but happy to chat offline for anyone who's interested. One of the important things that I'd like to point out about our food shelf, which is different than many others, is that it's a walk-in model. You don't need to make an appointment. Food shelves are very busy these days. For folks that do need to make an appointment, oftentimes it's a week or 2 or 3 out. So everybody gets served the day that they walk in. Anybody can be served. There are no limitations. Any food shelf that receives funding through the state should be abiding by this, so you can't say, sorry, only this city. We welcome everyone. No identification or income requirements. If people say they need help with food, we believe them. Pretty straightforward. In the Marketplace food shelf, families choose their own food. It's set up like a little grocery store. It's quite quaint. Families can visit once per month And we offer both perishable and non-perishable food. In fact, the perishable items are some of the most desired. That can be the milk, the cheese, the eggs, the meat, some of those items. We also offer personal hygiene, and that is much valued. So just as we go to the grocery store and we might say we need some soap and some shampoo, so do others. To give some numbers, the context, when I say last year, that's our last fiscal year, which runs from October to September. But we served a total last year of 20,392 people. From Robbinsdale specifically, 1,020 people were receiving services through the food shelf. Put a little bit of context, our end of our last fiscal year was a minute ago, so I wanted to plug in a little bit about the last 9 months. In the last 9 months at PRISM, we served a total of 17,742 individuals. And from Robbinsdale, it's 868 individuals. That comes out to be just under 400 households, to give you a little bit of context. Over half of the people that we serve overall at PRISM, and as reflected in the Robbinsdale number as well, are children and seniors. We offer rent help as well, our housing program, and this is to help families stay stable in their homes. These are situations that are resolvable. People can receive help once per year. A max of $2,000 is what we have available, and that is limited to the local 5-city area, so Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, Crystal, New Hope, and Plymouth. In the last fiscal year, PRISM served 97 families for a total of $26,000. In the last 9 months, we have served a total 97 total. Robbinsdale last year was 15, $26,000. And in the last 9 months, we've served 166 families, and 17 of those from Robbinsdale, to the tune of about $21,000. We did a special fundraising campaign during Operation Metro Surge for families in need, and a large portion of the families that we served through that fund were from Robbinsdale as well. We offer a thrift shop. This is open to the public. This is our social enterprise. This is the revenue that we generate to help fuel our operations. So 100% of the revenue generated at Shop for Change goes immediately and directly to support our operations and programs. So when we're buying all of that food to have stocked up in the food shelf, the revenue from the thrift shop is very helpful. We try to keep our prices really accessible, so no matter your budget, you'll be able to find items that you need. And we appreciate donations. It is fully fueled by donations from the community. So we have a lot of fun there. We offer 3 different children's programs. One would be our birthday room, and this is a space where parents, when they have a kiddo with a birthday that month, are able to go in and look at all the different toys that we have set up. And they choose what's best. They know what their kids' interests are, regardless of age, gender, those different pieces. They'll also get a birthday cake. They'll get a kit with all the party supplies. We know that when families are struggling financially, oftentimes birthdays get overlooked, and we want to maintain those family traditions. So the birthday room is a real heartwarming space. Annually, we do a holiday toy shop, and the toys that we have from the holiday toy shop are what refurbish our birthday room throughout the year. And last year, we had 847 kiddos benefit from the holiday program. So families register, come in the same way. We want people to have choice. We want it to be dignified, and they select the items that are most meaningful to their family. And then our back to school program, and we are gearing up for this right now. So collections of quality backpacks and school supplies, and we distribute them to families that we serve so that kiddos have that spiffy new backpack, a good solid one that'll make it through getting dragged down the street the first few weeks of school. Want to make sure that they're good items. And this is a really nice and I think important piece for young people to be well prepared for starting school. So whether we are keeping them safely in their homes or making sure that breakfast is on the table or that they have the supplies in the backpack to go to school, we're trying to support Robbinsdale residents as well as our greater community to be stable and to be healthy. Oh, and there it freezes. Okay. I've got another slide that talks about by the numbers, but I will just say generally that our total budget's about $4.8 million. A lot of that, over 2 million, is in kind, food that is donated or that we pick up from grocery stores. We get food by purchasing it from local food banks. We spend somewhere around $25,000 a month to purchase food, to keep it stocked. And then what we pick up from 9 different retailers, and then donations from the community. There's about 25 staff, hundreds of volunteers, and individuals are our largest source of revenue. So I want to make sure that everybody's clear that every dollar that you have available absolutely makes a big difference. I've got our handles on a slide that maybe you can see. Somebody's doing something very cool. I like it, appreciate it. But welcome the opportunity for the City Council members, Mr. Mayor, members of the community. Come visit, come shop at Shop for Change. If you want to do a food drive, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to give you a tour. We've got meeting rooms available if you're looking for a different space for a work meeting. We'd love to have you at Prism.
It's fantastic. I'll take you up on that for sure. I do have I'm sorry, was your presentation done?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. If I wanted to donate, can I come in and drop things off, or how do we go about donating?
Yeah. During our business hours, our donation door is always open. We've got a sign on the side of the building. So for clothing, small household items, I say anything that you can't lift, we can't lift. So no furniture or things of that nature. Food, absolutely, just drive right up.
Okay. And this is more on the technical and in the numbers, and if you don't know the answer to this, that's totally fine, but I was curious. I did see an uptick, and I was told never to do math out loud in public, so I don't. But I thought I saw a trend. If you were to take Metro Surge out of that trend, and I don't even know if you can extrapolate that, like, would you still see a rise in need?
Yeah, there's been a consistent rise in the number of people visiting food shelves over the years. The one thing that's constant is that increase, and we will look at each month the number of first-time food shelf visitors. That continues to remain very high. I think the numbers that were published by the food group, reflecting the over 9 million visits, is also a reflection of the capacity of food shelves, as we have worked to increase our capacity. We're looking at putting in food lockers next year, which would be a 30% increase.
Wow, that's great.
Food shelves, we could be open 24 hours a day and be very, very busy. There is no lack of need, and we anticipate that to continue to grow with the changes that have come down the pipe federally, and inflation, gas prices, all of those things that we all feel, but pinching people's budgets.
Well, I'm just so glad you guys are available and nearby and helping and doing a lot of help too. Council, I didn't want to hog the mic. Is there anything you guys had to ask or questions?
Thank you for coming to present today. I did a lot of work with Second Harvest Heartland and like a bunch of other food shelves, and you know the motto is, you know, you have the food banks and then the food shelves that are kind of doing the work for all the community. I think I read a statistic back like last year before Metro Surge and even before like federal cuts to SNAP. I know that I think it's like 1 in 5 families in Minnesota are food insecure. Mm-hmm. Do you know if that's still the case, or is it kind of changing over time?
It's not changing for the better. So I would say agree with that, if not increasing in need. There's about 500,000 people who receive SNAP benefits. The eligibility for SNAP is really quite low. So families could be very legitimately struggling financially and be over the income eligibility. Or folks who say, I do it and I get $14 a month and it's a lot of paperwork. And now there's new requirements. So I think that SNAP is one piece of I say kind of a patchwork of resources. Food shelves are another. Hot meal programs might be another. Programs like WIC also do that. And I appreciate your comment about food banks, because they're kind of the organizers. They're kind of the macro level, whereas we are the ones working directly with communities in need. And so we'll source our food from the food banks. We purchase and then get some free food from them as well. But a bank is different than a shelf or a pantry. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. And I think one of the things that gets that doesn't really get looked at is the impact that it has on farmers, because I think farmers will sell or in bulk to the banks, and then they try to get those out to the food shelves. So that's another big part of it. But thank you for all the work. I definitely want to stop by for a tour if it's possible,
Yes.
given that it's right over here. So I don't have any other questions, but thank you for coming in today.
Thank you. All right. Yes, yeah.
Thank
Please.
you. Thank you,
Thanks for your
Michelle, for
time.
the
Appreciate it.
presentation. I just wanted to say thanks not only for the presentation, but also for highlighting the impact that the organization has had in Robbinsdale. That's really meaningful to see those numbers. And then additionally, I would love for you to extend my thanks to Liam on your team. I had the pleasure of meeting him through an orientation and receiving a tour and meeting some of the other volunteers. And so thank you so much for all the work that you and Liam and the rest of the team do. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely pass it along. He's wonderful. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please, Councilmember Greenberg.
Yeah, so thank you for being here and all the work you do in the community. For people who want to volunteer or get involved, what are the best ways to go about that?
Yep. The easiest way to volunteer is go to our website and get involved, and volunteering is going to be one of the drop downs, and just fill out the little pieces of information, and then Liam, our volunteer manager, will follow up. The process is basically we invite you in to have an orientation so you can learn about us, how do our systems work, how to sign up, and then really after that, it's up to each volunteer what they want to sign up for, how frequently. We don't have any minimum number of hours or set locations, so from the front desk to the food shelf to the thrift shop, we need a lot of volunteers and are grateful for the support.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
And I would say, yeah, thank you again, Michelle. I know I got a chance to come out there last year as well, too, with and Liam. Like I said, this amazing operation, being able to support families locally. And then also, I think it's important to talk about the dignity that is within that program. And there's so much, I think, when I walked in that space and feeling in the conversation is talking to a few people who were present there, like, knowing that it's dignified and it feels like a normal shopping experience, a normal experience being present,
Yeah.
that was beautiful. So thank
We
you
want
for
people to
being
feel
mindful of
better.
that.
And how you get treated is a big part of that. It's not just about food, but it's the experience and the wraparound services. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Michelle, again, for the wonderful presentation. And last question, and then I promise I'll let you sit down. What's the biggest need? What do you guys need the most of right now?
Money.
Money.
It's always
Okay.
always money. As needs continue to go up, cost of food continues to go up. But I would say donations for the thrift shop are very meaningful because that helps to fuel our thrift operations. Go shopping in the thrift shop. Sometimes people say somebody else needs it more. There's lots of stuff. Come and stock up. Take advantage of the deals.
Okay.
And spread the word. Letting people know that we're around and what we're doing is really helpful.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you
glad
all.
Right. Okay, moving on. City of Robbinsdale Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for 2025.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council Member. City annually contract with independent certified public accounting firm to audit the city annual comprehensive financial report (ACFR). This year, the audit has been performed by L.P. Carlson. The audit of the report for the 2025 has received unmodified opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that the auditor can provide. In addition, the auditor has performed a review of the city compliance with Minnesota State statute and have issued required report in compliance. Finally, the auditor has provided you with management report, special purpose report, which provide further information on the result of operation of 2025. At this time, I will turn the presentation over to Aaron Nielsen, CPA, who is the audit partner on the city engagement.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. We're pleased to be completed with the audit process this year. Probably not quite as much as your staff are, but I'm pretty confident the finance department is probably providing the longest report this evening with that ACFR document. But as mentioned, 3 reports have been issued: that ACFR annual comprehensive financial report, the special purpose reports, and the management report, as mentioned by Dia. We start with our role as independent auditors to the city to provide that opinion on the financial statements, whether they're fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, also to issue the required reports for internal controls and compliance. And 2 areas: the financial statement audit under government auditing standards was completed, and then for the Office of the State Auditor's Legal Compliance Manual. And I'll get right to it. And I know it was mentioned, the unmodified opinion on that ACFR financial statement, or a clean opinion on the report, so meaning it's fairly presented as of December 31st, 2025, and the results for the year then ended. As you can see, we've noted there were no deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting, and no instances of non-compliance with audit under government auditing standards. And the same with the Minnesota Legal Compliance Manual testing. So there's 7 broad areas within that State Auditor's Legal Compliance Manual, with many questions within each area. And we're pleased to report there were no comments of compliance to issue again this year with the reports. I'll move pretty quickly because, as you can see, the results were favorable with regard to our testing and the completion of the audit. I've picked some of the slides out of the management report simply to highlight some of the components that we think are important to the public, the city, and governance to see from year to year. We're looking at the governmental funds slide right now. They're completed under the modified accrual basis of accounting, which is different than your entity-wide or the enterprise fund or utility fund operations. With your governmental funds, the focus is on the currently available resources to know what you have available to you for programming and services that are provided to residents of the city. We've got a table here showing the split between the governmental funds, the components of fund balance, as well as a split of that breakdown by major fund and non-major funds. As you can see in the top half, the largest changes occurred in assigned fund balances, as well as within the unassigned, and I can point to a couple things on the lower half where that happened. That unassigned improvement is with regard to the general fund. You can see that saw an increase in overall fund balance this past year with positive operating results. The other one is within that RETA TIF development fund, which you can see has had a deficit position for many years, but that's kind of the nature of how those projects works, where you advance the dollars, you complete the projects, and then recruit them over many years. So you're seeing a reduction in that deficit, helping that improved unassigned balance. Within that assigned component, that's largely driven by, you can see the permanent improvement revolving fund saw an increase this past year, and that is largely dollars assigned you have for future street improvement projects that were reported. Within the non-major funds on the lower half, just to touch upon one of the bigger changes, that's within the non-major funds and the capital project fund back there. There was some spending of restricted dollars, but that was mostly offset because you can see your restricted had only a slight change of $53,000. So there was increases in the general fund restricted components that offset that decrease in the non-major capital project fund, as well as your RETA general development fund that helped offset the decrease that we had in that non-major fund. The next several slides focus on your general fund, or the primary operating fund for the city. We've got a new slide this year included in the management report. We had a couple new slides that we incorporated this year This slide shows you the components of fund balance in the general fund at year end. Some are almost non-existent just because of the sheer scale of the graph that we're presenting here. But overall, you can see there's an improvement in that financial position at year end with that total increase largely within, you can see that unassigned category this past year, but some shifts with the assigned and restricted and non-spendable. Non-spendable represents dollars that you've essentially you've let them out the door, but you haven't utilized them. So prepaid items for the following year, you can't respend the dollars, but you haven't utilized them or wiped out the prepaid item for the following fiscal year. I missed one comment I did want to share on that last slide. So along with that improved financial position, you have continued to meet your fund balance policy goals. I probably should look at including that slide that's in your management report. You probably notice that shows that minimum goal of 40%. I believe the city has in place kind of a goal between 40 and 50%. And at the end of this year, you're right at the higher end level of that goal at 49.6%, I believe is where it ended up this past year. So good news meeting that goal, obviously in these challenging times and a limited ability to really generate more revenues. Moving on to then I forgot to talk about your revenues. So on the revenue side, we've got a graph of the budget to actual comparison of the major sources for the general fund. A couple of comments I have here just for scale of the operation of your general fund this past year. Total revenues amounted to $15.3 million. I'd like to say favorable operating results this year with revenues coming in better than anticipated. The only category that didn't hit the budget target was property taxes, and you can see that makes up 62.2% of your revenues of the general fund, and it was within $600, so it came in extremely close to what was anticipated. And then you can see conservative budgeting practices, development activities this past year helped in the offset that minor deficit with favorable variances in the remaining categories we showed there. Intergovernmental had the largest variance coming in over budget favorably, and there was some state grants that came in that probably couldn't have been anticipated at the time the budget was set, and helped increase that restricted balance at year end and will have to be used for the purposes of those grants. My next slide, as I already shared with you, is similar to the expenditure side. You can see the components here, budget to actual, but we're looking at that function level or where those dollars are spent, that category. Similarly, there's a concentration of spending in the general fund for public safety, which is not unusual for Minnesota cities that we see for public safety of police and fire rescue services, making up 60% this past year for your city. Total general fund expenditures were $14.3 million in 2025. As you can see, when we talk about expenditures now, I'd say we're pleased that you came in under budget in the allotments that were approved by council. So favorable results with your budget manager spending within that approved budget capacity that was provided through the budget process. The one category where there was a slight overspending of the dollar amounts is within community development this past year, but that was far outpaced and covered by the savings in the remaining departments. Just for some information, open positions and savings in personnel costs, supplies, as well as other services and charges contributed to that favorable variance in the general fund. All right, shifting away from the general fund, we talk about enterprise funds, and probably more common to the cities and the residents is considering those your utility operation funds. As you can see by the split on the lower half of this graph, we've got a split on the top that shows the components of, now it's called net position at this level. For enterprise funds, they're on a full accrual basis, so that's completed with the long-term concept in mind, because these are intended to take care of themselves. The users pay for the services that they're receiving. So it captures the cost of capital assets, long-term obligations of these funds, which you don't see in governmental fund reporting until we get to that entity-wide dual presentation that's provided in your financial statements. And I'll save that to the last slide. But one thing I'll note here to save us time at the end, you can see there was an overall increase of $5.7 million overall for these utility operations or enterprise operations, proprietary funds. Or I should say enterprise operations here. When we get to the last slide, you'll see that the business type activities truly aligns with the utility operations. So that change in the business type activities is the same as you see for the enterprise funds on the last slide. Overall, you can see there was a significant increase this past year with each of the funds contributing to that increase, with the exception of the liquor operation, which was nearly break even, and I've got some comments when we get to that slide later on. The other component to remember is that these utility operations are extremely heavily weighted towards the infrastructure to provide those services, water, sewer, surface water. So you can see that split with that net investment in capital assets. So we like to see the increase there. However, it doesn't mean you have more resources to go and invest more into it, because it's tied up in your existing system that you have in place. I'll zip through the slides I have for each individual fund to show you a little bit of a history, a 5-year trend there. Just a quick comment on the water fund. A real similar net result with an increase in activity levels. As the council's aware, and probably many city residents driving around the city, have had a lot of work done with the water treatment facilities, water tower work, all that coming online now for a full year, and the depreciation kind of elevated the rates and the level you can see of expenses coming through depreciation, for instance. So that's the importance you see in our comments in the management report that I know has been important to the council with utility rate reviews and how you replace infrastructure in the future, and planning for that as part of the ebbs and flows with how certain operations go from year to year. Your water fund, you'll see, will really fluctuate when we have dry seasons versus wet seasons in the summer. The sanitary sewer fund, as you can see here, operating results and actual overall results very similar to the prior year. A slight improvement in the operating income compared to the prior year. The stormwater utility even closer to a stamp of the prior year. As you can see, that operating income very similar to the results in 2024. The solid waste removal, that one saw an improvement in the operating results, that operating income with the increase in rates surpassing the increase incurred compared to the prior year with the expenses. And then that brings us to the liquor operations. And while we talked about you saw a decrease, I would comment that you do see an increase in the amount of dollars that were available this year that were transferred out of the fund to help offset administrative costs, future capital costs. So while there was a decrease, it wouldn't have happened had you left the transfer amount at that same level. But you can see that came at the work of challenges of working with expenditures, reducing expenditures, and I'm sure it wasn't easy at all, and probably needs to be considered and monitored to see, can that be sustained, and what was the impact to services. And as we've seen with our cities, it's been a competitive market for many years now, with more saturation of big chains and so on getting involved in the area and easy for people to get to. The Broadway Court Fund, that net result, that operating income line, you can see very stable, consistent with the prior year results. The inflationary increases in the charges and revenues offset that inflationary increase in the expenses this past year. The deputy registrar seeing more activity, as you can see by that revenue line, and then resulting holding expenses very similar, which then resulted in an improvement in that operating income line. And then getting us to our last slide. So the bottom half I'll really skip over because that's 5.7 million is the exact increase we just talked about with the utility operations. When we look entity-wide for your organization, that's where, when we talked about the governmental funds, we've consolidated all the governmental funds, we've consolidated in your internal service funds, and then we've incorporated the capital assets of the city for street infrastructure, as well as long-term bonded obligations related to the streets, as well as pension obligations, which are probably some of the bigger adjustments. You can see that in the statements. There's a reconciliation from those governmental fund statements that get you to that entity-wide presentation if you're interested in seeing how the differences between the two statements fit. That net investment in capital assets really is showing that depreciation exceeding the amount of investment into it this past year. Your investment had been probably really increased in the past couple of years when all that construction was going on, and this year probably being a slower level compared to prior years as those projects were completed. But we're also always netting the amount of debt related to it, so it kind of offsets it until the years where your debt payments start coming through, which will happen and start contributing to that swing back. The restricted, we talked about that increase in restricted net position at the entity-wide level for various categories within the general fund. And other funds. And then the unrestricted, you can see there's an overall increase unrestricted with regard to that favorable operating results of the general fund and that deficit we talked about within the TIF development fund, not development, but the reimbursement fund where the projects are the project fund. So with that, I know we went through a lot of information. I got a sneak peek of probably one of the upcoming presentation on the Act for Award coming up. So you have received that award for the past 46 years. This one has been prepared to and has been submitted to allow you to receive that award again. So we're hopeful and believe you should continue to receive the award. So I want to thank the staff. I know it's an incredible undertaking, continuing more new audit standards, GASB standards, and we're thankful for their assistance in successfully implementing it. So if there's any questions, I know I went through a lot of information very quickly, but happy to do my best to respond.
I do have a question, and I'm sure maybe the council does as well. So I appreciate it. It was a clean and unmodified report. And that's, again, fantastic work, the staff and what we're doing. Given that, are there any risks that we should be watching for?
I think always.
Yeah.
You probably saw in our report you have an unmodified opinion, but obviously everything's changing all the time. So being aware of how are bills being paid or how are revenues being received, some of that information becomes important to make sure, are we adapting our controls for that? Comment I think I had in your management report that I put in all of them this year is there's more and more attacks on electronically reaching out and trying to spoof accounts payable clerks, anybody in this whole office as to being a vendor, and we change our payment information, right? And having good controls to double check that. The audit obviously is behind the times of where you're at 6 months into the next year here, and really an exercise to make sure, the information and data you're getting is up to speed, but staying on top of, the new projects, and that information is important because by the time I'm sharing with you, we're already probably looking into, how is that impacting next year even already? So. But great to see clean operating results, fairly stated. It doesn't mean, your liquor fund with, has had some years of challenges. And you still get a clean opinion, which means we agree with the numbers that are there, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's, heading in the right direction. For this year, you can see there was some positive things to point out, but probably with a lot of energy and exercises that went into it, and can they continue? So.
How would you say, if you look at the other cities that you audit, how are we showing up? Are we stronger, weaker, same?
I really don't want to respond directly to that because
names,
it's not the design of the audit and my testing. But I would say, a lot of positive things you can see with positive operations, operating income. You know, some cities are at a different phase as they're growing, and you know, they're adding infrastructure so quickly that they're having to balance very different challenges, and how do we finance them just to help that build output. You're on the other end of it where it's, okay, how do we keep up the replacement and make sure we're maintaining it? And it's harder to, that's why I try to stress with the utility operations. Sometimes people will say there's a lot of cash and fund balance there, but you may go many years without a major project, and then all of a sudden it'll wipe it all out. So it can go, and it becomes then your debt balance. How do you want to manage that? So I think that's more of a thing of educating the community, is this is really a good thing over the long term. I can't move into your city and only live there while we're depleting the resources and then walk away, right? Or move on, and then somebody else has to restore it. I'd like to believe as a citizen I'm coming in and leaving it in as good a shape or better when I leave for the next generation.
So any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions.
Yeah, please.
Thanks for the presentation, and thanks to the staff for the hard work. I know a lot goes into this, and for yours as well. I guess similar to the risk question, but maybe a little bit of a different angle of, you know, in general, things look pretty good. There's definitely some areas for an improvement, and that's going to be the case in any budget that's of this size, and so understanding that. But are there any warning signs that we should be aware of, or when you see a city this size? I mean, things are net positive and like I said, are looking good, but what should we be aware of as a council, or just as we're paying attention to the numbers? It's a lot of numbers, a lot of information. It's sometimes hard to make out, well, this is one area where I would be concerned, or are there any warning signs, maybe risks, but are there, you know, just in general, and then also specific to our city?
Specifically, if I had warning signs, I would have written them probably into the management report to share with you if I had concerns that I want to make you aware of. So, I mean, nothing from the work we've completed really indicated any of that. I mean, in general, what we've seen the last couple of years is, you know, schools more heavily than cities got more of those one-time dollars through pandemic-related funds, but the city received some of those too, but they've been spent. So knowing that, okay, how do you manage those so it didn't become an ongoing expense that you couldn't afford to continue, which I think you handled very well. But, you know, those are the kind of things I look for is, okay, making sure your budget analysis is considering, are we keeping pace in terms of, well, we hit budget, but was that kind of a one-time lucky thing? We had a light winter, or snow plowing kind of things can really shift from year to year. And and then just because we had a good year, do we lower the budget, right? And it gets tempting. As well as things like permit fees, because it seems like everybody's building, and it's, you know, but you got to be cautious in your permit revenues. It comes with extra check costs and things like that. And again, it becomes tempting to balance out other revenue sources. To me, that's when I get nervous, is, oh, we jammed up our budget for it. Well, are you sure we're going to keep growing at that pace? And I haven't seen, you know, you've been pretty steady in that front for many years, but I can understand the tempting nature of that instead of working with the levy, because you've only got that as your primary source. And then you're relying on the state's budget. So.
One other question that I had, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So just noticing in general that, you know, the revenues coming in are higher than the outlays, and, you know, the overall change is significant, so that there's more money. And I think you sort of answered this, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear as far as, you know, we hear a lot from residents as far as the levy increasing or bonding and just trying to be fiscally responsible. But, you know, we're not a business, so the goal isn't to make a profit. We want to serve our community and be fiscally responsible.
Right.
But the reason that those numbers are offset, or that there's more, is because we're taking into account over time there might be other things that we need to, or maybe rather than telling you, I would ask what accounts for that difference?
Well, maybe to kind of make it a little more personal, it's kind of the presentation before me on what food shelves are having and all those kind of, you know, pressures that come along with that. You know, your wages to your staff, your officers, and everything else. Everybody feels that need then, right? So you try to manage that levy on a steady trajectory, so even in those hard times, you can kind of weather them and absorb that. I think the strongest piece you got is the fund balance policy, having that goal of we're going to work in this range, and then if we get over that, okay, we can, considering, you know, a thoughtful process as to how are we going to adjust back to our range without just making it, hey, we can add a service or we can add this, because each year there's, you know, you can naturally go back for 10 years, that graph I've got where it's only 5, you do 10, you can see the range always goes up because of inflation, or tends to. And I see that in all my cities. So it gets challenging. You know, it's always the goal to have a balanced budget, but then the next year always costs more. So if you nailed your budget, you're not going to have more money to help cover that growth. So it's nice when you're coming in favorably with conservative budgets that, oh, we don't have a hole to make up. Plus, that means we're still going in that direction.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's a great point, because that's what we saw happen to the city of Crystal, right? I mean, so more or less. Yeah, so. Yes, Tim.
Mr. Mayor, Council, if I may, just 2 questions ago on Mr. Nielsen, not to put you on the spot, the question about concerns and something we've talked about, I think it's worth recognizing, and not necessarily in a bad way, but where we have to dedicate extra resources by way of training, where we focus on retention. Just being a smaller staff comes with more limited controls naturally, just fewer people in positions doing certain things. So it's something that we've called out in the past, and I just think it's worth mentioning that. And I don't know if you're comfortable humming a few bars to that to steal a line from the mayor, but just sharing, you know, our capacity-wise, some things just naturally come with that.
Great points. Obviously, you're running with a lean staff. At, you know, times we've had the limited segregation duties considerations, and you know, turnover then becomes really challenging at a city of your size. So you might run into stretches where you've had open positions in key roles, and that's when you really need to be prepared. I think that's a great comment of maybe something to be observant of and aware. Okay, how are we mitigating any risk because we have that open position in a key role? I don't know if there's much to add to that, but yeah, it's across the board with the governments we work with. It's pretty safe to say it's hard to try to forget councils or school boards excited of. You need to keep adding to your finance areas as well, because you're growing in size of operations in some places, right? So, but it isn't a very exciting place where people see the return on, hey, we have more officers or services that we're providing in other areas. But when something negative happens, then it becomes very expensive to catch up and build that trust back. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Excellent presentation, and once again, congratulations to the Robbinsdale staff and finance department for running a tight ship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the city's audited annual comprehensive financial report for the year ended December 31, 2025, auditor's management report, and special purpose audit reports as submitted by LB Carson LLP, and direct staff to distribute the report to other agencies as required.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. All right, approved. Thank you. Next, certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting.
For the 46th consecutive year, the city has been awarded a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. Just for your information, you'll see we are present in 24 while we are in 26, because to get to the certificate, it takes in the process roughly around 9 months. This award is given by the Government Finance Officer Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, to government who meet a stringent set of criteria. The award was established in 1945, and this designed to recognize and encourage excellence in financial reporting by state and local government throughout the United States and Canada. City of Robbinsdale received its first award for the year ending in December 31st, 1979. Just also for your information, for the further discussion, like 2024 was very challenging for the finance department. We were short 2 full-time positions. One of them was vacant more than 6 months, so it was very challenging time between meeting the deadline and also maintaining the separation of duty, and like I cannot approve what I enter. So it was kind of like very hard time, long hour to work to able to achieve it, which is very critical because when we go for bonding, this is very critical certificate and it's required for any bond rating, and the city maintained AA+ with the highest ceiling for the size of our city. So this is good for residents that know we are working hard, so when we go to issue bond, we get the lowest possible interest rate. Plaque to be given to the mayor at this meeting during presentation by finance director.
Do you want to come down there? Or?
I think just you give me just one moment if I can just add a couple more. So I want to thank Mr. Tahoon. Start by saying, to receive something like this, certainly we take a lot of pride in. Note that takes effort across the city, all departments, certainly working together, but having the know-how to properly go through all the things we were just talking about as a part of the audit. With that, I think specifically to Mr. Tahoon, his leadership in recent history has been second to none. What he's been able to do for the city, just to basic core functions, but not meeting those, exceeding those, and is knowing through some challenging times. It certainly doesn't come easy, difficult things to do. So I offer my thanks to Mr. Tahoon, and not just because he has a suit on. I invite him to come up, take a picture with the council, because again, it's under your leadership, your policies, your direction that we achieve this type of thing, that a lot of robust, difficult conversation happen throughout the year as the budget is put together, and then on the back end through the reporting to ensure that we're doing things properly. A lot of hard work goes through that, so you all should feel good about that too.
Well, thank you, Tim. You're generous with praise. That was great for us because I know, Dia, you're really putting in the long hours. And I did not know the story on 2024. Maybe I missed it last year, but that says a lot about the work you put in. And I hope everybody heard that when he said that our bond rating stays low, that means our interest rates stay low. So the work that you do directly translates to savings for the city of Robbinsdale. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. So should we all come down? Excellent. All right. No public hearings. Moving on to old business, accept bids for construction of tennis and pickleball courts at Sanborn Park in City Project 23625.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. Sadly, I don't have any awards to present to you tonight or anything like that. I'm just the run-of-the-mill stuff, asking to spend some money on some infrastructure. Council members would probably be familiar with I guess it's a bit of a saga of the tennis and pickleball courts at Sanborn Park. We've gone out for bids a number of times, and for one reason or another, we haven't been able to kind of bring it to a point where construction can happen. First go round, we rejected bids because the funding organisation for the grant monies that we're expecting didn't like a whole bunch of stuff about the plan. So we rejected bids and went back and changed the plans and specifications. Second go round, when we got bids, we did award the project, but ultimately rescinded that award because we could not confirm that the grant money would be forthcoming. And the grant money was a big component of the affordability of this project. So this go round, we put our plans and specs before the US Tennis Association and got their basically approval that the plans are good to go before we put it out for bid. It's a bit of a convoluted process because then you have to get the bids back and take it back to the US Tennis Association to determine how much grant money you're going to be awarded. So to get to that process, on June the 4th of this year, we received and publicly opened bids again for this project. We got a total of 7 bids this go round. And the bids ranged from $458,309.28 all the way up to $978 for this work. The engineer's estimate was $416,358.50. We've attached the abstract of the bids to your business papers, and that's there for your viewing. The low bidder this go round was Blackstone Contractors of Loretto, Minnesota. A total of $420,000 been allocated in this year's capital improvement program, and of that, it's anticipated that $80,000 would be in grant funding, with the remaining $340,000 coming from city-sourced funds. Now, after we received the bids and sent it off to the US Tennis Association, we did receive advice that we would be eligible for $70,000 in grant funds from the national body. And then it's understood an additional $20,000 in grant funds would be made available from the state tennis body. Confirmation of that additional $20,000 has not been received yet, but all indications are that we should be getting that. Earlier in the meeting tonight, as consent item J, City Council took action to basically accept the $70,000 that the national tennis body was offering, and kind of anticipated the additional $20,000 from the state body. So if we allow $90,000 in total from grant funds and the $340,000 in city source funds, there's still a shortfall of just under $30,000. In order to keep expenditure balanced in the parks capital category, the shortfall can be made up from savings in the trail light projects. We've managed to, on projects 299 and 2005, we've managed to save approximately $30,000. Those trail lights have been purchased and installed, and we've got a little bit of money left over on that. So that could be channeled towards this project and still keep a balanced budget in the overall CAF fund. So should the additional $20,000, worst case scenario, should the additional $20,000 in grant monies not be forthcoming, the City Council would then have to determine where that additional $20,000 would come from. I've mentioned in the report that staff's recommendation would be to still proceed with the project, and that the over expenditure being sourced from the fund balance, the CAF fund balance, which at the end of 2025 had a balance of about $1 million. So moving on to the project itself, the city has worked with the low bid contractor on previous project. Their work was found to be satisfactory, and therefore the contractor is deemed to be responsible. Construction period allowed for in the specifications is 63 working days, and with a final completion date of no later than October 30 of this year. Once we have more detailed start dates and a schedule, we'd be happy to share that information in the Birdtown Brief and on the city website. So the wash-up of this is that we have an attachment to this business paper that is a resolution that awards the contract for the construction of the tennis and pickleball courts in Sanborn Park to Blackstone Contractors of Loretto, Minnesota.
Thank you. Richard? Council, any questions, comments? Motions?
I will.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard. It was mentioned previously here that we had used this contractor in the past. Do you know which project that was for?
They constructed an alley for us. It was in the 2nd Ward. Concrete alley. It had some interesting elements to it. It had some pervious pavement down the middle. Our alleys generally are V-shaped, and all that water runs to the next street and then out and into catch basins. So this alley we constructed in the 2nd Ward actually had pervious pavers that channeled the water into the ground before it got to the road. And that turned out quite well.
Cool. That's good.
Great. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I can make a motion. I'll make a motion to waive the reading and order the adoption of the attached resolution awarding a contract for the construction of the tennis pickleball court in Sanborn Park, City Project 23625 Blackstone Construction Contractors LLC of Loretto, Minnesota.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So those say no or nay. All right. Good to see us get going.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, new business item, rezone for 4360 West Broadway, water tower spot. All right.
Perfect. Thank you, Council. Mayor. This is going to be a standard rezone for the property of 4360 West Broadway. As with the previous rezones that were brought before you, this is also going to be a rezone for a city-owned lot for pretty much seeing inconsistent zoning, pretty much trying to put it in the proper zoning category. The property today that we're requesting this is for 4360 West Broadway. Currently, this parcel is designated as an R1 single-family low-density residential lot. You might know this property contains the water tower that was constructed back in 2024. So this was our most recent water tower along the highway. To better reflect long-term use and ensure land use consistency, staff recommends rezoning this property to the Public Facilities Zoning District. This project went through proper approvals through the council back then, went through the proper permits as well, getting the requirements from our building department. We were able to zone this property through the comprehensive plan for I believe it would have been a public facility, but the zoning for it was never changed. I personally believe that was just human error and this was just an oversight. We're just bringing this for you today to be consistent with our zoning and comprehensive maps. So I'm going to try and utilize this. As before with the parks, we are seeing different zoning districts through their colors. When we look at the map over here on the right-hand side, it is primarily white. That is showing our R1 low-density single-family areas. 4360 West Broadway is going to be right up here. If you can see me drawing right there, you're seeing that is white. That's going to show that this is what a house would be under. That is obviously this is not correct, given that it's a water tower. But when we looked at our draft land use plan up here for the 2040 comprehensive plan, we show that it's actually going to be green underneath our public areas. Obviously, that is going to be an oversight. This is just going to be cleaning that up today and just showing it what it properly is. And just visually to make sure we know which water tower we're talking about. It's going to be that one right there. The Planning Commission reviewed the proposed rezone application during a regularly scheduled meeting on June 18th, 2026. A public hearing was held at that meeting. No comments were made in relation to the application, and the public hearing was then closed. Notice of that public hearing was also published in the city's official newspaper and posted on the city's bulletin board 10 days prior to the meeting. Staff would recommend a motion to approve the attached resolution on the staff report within the allowing the rezone of 4360 West Broadway from R1 single family residential to the public facilities district.
Yeah, I mean, don't think there's any drama on this one. Is there a motion? Thanks, Will. Good presentation. Appreciate it.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'll put a motion to approve the attached resolution allowing the rezone of 4360 West Broadway from R1 single-family residential to the public facilities district.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. So let it be written, so let it be done. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. On to new business. I'm sorry, we're past that. On to other business. Voucher requests pending approval for disbursement? No stunt flying? No? Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the voucher disbursement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. That's been approved. Administrative reports.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just a couple quick ones. I'm sure Council will get into it. Certainly look forward to seeing people out and about Whiz-Bang Days here in the next handful of days. Beyond that, I want to share out that we do have some contractors continuing to complete work with Centerpoint down in the south end of town. We continue to update our project page. If you have questions, certainly give us a shout here at City Hall. We're working with the folks as they continue that cleanup. Beyond Whiz-Bang Days, don't want to jump too far ahead. Do want to note, though, that the rec department does have some events coming up, including series in the next Music in the Park, as well as movie in the park. So beyond this weekend, please continue to watch for opportunities to connect with your neighbor through city events and otherwise. And then, as I'm looking at my notes, that's enough for me tonight.
All right. Moving on to our council general communications. Anybody have any things they'd like to say tonight? All right, Councilmember Greenberg, floor is yours.
First and foremost, I want to wish a happy birthday to my wife.
Oh, come
which I'm missing her party.
Oh, okay,
so
all right, acceptable.
For our meeting, but happy birthday to Jess. The other thing that's going on, I wanted to mention that the school board and Robbinsdale area schools are discussing closing or reutilizing Lakeview. So last year it was decided, or I guess maybe earlier this year, finally decided to close Robbinsdale Middle School, but they had decided to leave Lakeview Elementary as an elementary school. And I guess there are new conversations happening currently to repurpose that building into an administrative building, in essence closing it as an elementary school. So I want to make sure that people are aware of that. There are school board meetings on Monday nights. So if, I spoke a lot about it the last time we went through, and I will be involved in it this time around, but just want to make sure that the public is aware. And then last thing I'll say is excited to see everybody out at Whiz-Bang. It is going to be a really hot weekend, so make sure that you drink plenty of water and be safe out there. But excited for Whiz-Bang. That's it for me.
And thank you, Jess, for letting JCB here.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Nope. All right. Wow. All right. Quick one. I'll keep it short and sweet too. Yeah. Get out there and enjoy Whiz-Bang, and thanks for the heads up on the school board. That is a bummer that this is back on the table. But with that, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Have a great week, and see you around. And welcome aboard, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no or nay. Meeting adjourned.